G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute. This is our Garrett, and today we're joined by Drinking with Gaming Problems. He was suggested to us by one of our supporters, and so we brought him on for an episode. And you do Star System videos. Tell people a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, so I've literally just started. It's all been a bit of a whirlwind, but I've started doing videos from the point of view of my military background, serving in the Navy for almost 12 years as a warfare officer, and right now I work in search and rescue. So two areas of kind of expertise I can bring to Star Citizen and hopefully help people out with.
And we thought that was really good to kind of bring on board. And then we thought we'd do a topic completely irrelevant and didn't make any sense to that at all. So that's fine. But yeah, definitely being able to draw on experience from the real world is a good thing. The other thing I will talk about real briefly before we get started is, again, hashtag Jaden in the comments. And if you're subscribed, for your chance to win the F7A upgrade and Super Hornet that was meant to be for Jaden. But unfortunately, he passed away. So his friend would like to give it away to a good home. All right, so with that said, today's episode is Your Story, CIG's Way. And what does that mean? So this is kind of alluding to one of the issues from the whole naming of ships type stuff. And we did our usual deep dive before the show, and this went places we didn't think it was going to go. They clearly have not thought through this issue. We'll also elaborate from the start. We assumed that this was a marketing issue. Astropub or Paul also assumed it was a marketing issue, and through different channels we've heard back that this goes directly to John Crew and the ship, what's it called, the ship creation team or whatever. What are they called again? Sorry, I've forgotten their name.
Just ship team will do.
The ship team. So it actually goes back to them. This is actually what they want. So we were 100% certain that this was a marketing thing, and it is in fact not a marketing thing. So just something that hasn't been thought through. So hopefully we can change their minds. So I'm going to flick over to.
But this also isn't a totally. We're certainly not wanting it to be a jump on rag session. Total criticism, blah blah blah.
Yes.
We actually want this to be positive, and I'll be honest, I'm struggling with the way this is being implemented. I really can't see many positives with it.
So
I can also see many positives with the idea, but the implementation is just, yeah.
Yeah, so basically what Agrit's trying to say in short is we're trying to constructively criticize what they're doing, and when we went through it, there was very little we could find positive. In fact, if you work it through, well, I shouldn't say positive, I should say it's more favorable to be a different way than do the way that they're doing it. That's how I'd say it. So it's still okay, it's just not as good as if they did it with serial numbers or whatnot. All right. So this is the original post talking about the ships that they're going to do and the times and how they're going to roll them out. One of the things that was really evident to me is why the hell do golden ticket holders get an advantage, yet then concierge don't get an advantage? So I understand the original concept backers, the concept pledges, but putting all of the concierge in with just the regular 2018 backers to me sounded really weird. If you're going to be elitist, go full elitist, or just don't do it at all. I found that a little weird. Is there anything else that you want to add to this, you two, from our discussions, or have I covered everything?
Go, DG.
Yeah, no, I think you've covered it all from my perspective. I find this, as you say, very elitist, and I'm not a fan.
Agrid, anything you wish to add?
Again, from my perspective, the idea of naming ships, awesome. The idea of being able to have our name, a name of a ship on the side of, the name of our ship on the vessel itself, great. It does give that personalized feel, which I think is what the ship team was looking for. But this way of implementation just seems absolutely half-cocked. It really does seem, and without going into an expletive-laden description, I'm struggling.
So this has a few people, not just us, in the community quite heated. Even on Paul has a channel on Discord for Captain's Table, and a lot of the content creators were just got into this really quite deep discussion and quite heated discussion very quickly. So it's affecting everyone, I think. And so I want to kind of let's take a look now that we know it's the ship team and try to look at it and analyze it from their perspective. Obviously, they're wanting your story to be unique and make you feel special. And one of the things that came up during the discussions, though, that I said was, if you remember the line from the Incredibles movies, when everyone's super, nobody will be. And it's quite indicatively the same thing in this. If they're all trying to make us feel special and warm and fuzzy, it's empty. It's just not going to be special. So the only other way to go is kind of like in Eve, and I think one of our supporters was talking about this quite heavily. He was talking about in Eve, and I've forgotten the gentleman's name. It starts with M, but if you follow Eve at all, you'll know who I'm talking about. And this gentleman runs one of the really big orgs, and basically they've taken down a lot of other. I think it's Miravigilant or something like that. He's got a weird name like that, but they've taken down many other organizations, and he is well known. He has that name, and he's very, very well known. So the way I'm looking at it is, why don't you just let the game make who the really popular people are? And if you want them to then have a unique name that other people don't copy, let people copy them, but then maybe give them their own custom icon that they come up with that appears in their title, or a title itself, or a special color just for them, or something like that. Mark them like that, because let's be honest, that's going to be a lot less people, is it not?
But I think part of a problem with the naming of ships really comes from those two sales of concept ships, the 600i and the Corsair, because they were sold with the ability to have a unique name. And so I can see the goal here to try and provide or supply that and ensure that happens.
Mm.
And then going, okay, well, how does it work elsewhere?
Mm.
But again, to me, it just seems. Yeah.
Your thoughts, GGP?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, proving that you can put ship names on ships, that it can appear and that you can do that, doesn't have to happen all at the same time as fulfilling that pledge for people to have unique names. And I think it's almost a running before you can walk scenario. It's like, let people get it out of their system, call their ships silly names. We've proved that we can put it on the side of the ships. Function complete, great. And then later on, return to it, once you've had the chance for the community to react to the idea of, unique names being what they are now. I think that's part of it. The details they've released, how they're going to work, one unique name per type of ship. It's all too much at once, and it's not really given the chance to have that feedback from us before they've kind of lumped it all on us. Do you know what I mean?
You've just triggered something else in my brain. I believe it was the Eclipses have unique serial numbers.
Yep.
What's special about them anymore?
Yeah, and also the Polaris and the Nautilus, I think, had unique serial numbers as well.
So if one thing is unique and the other isn't, what's the point? So one's great and one's not so great anymore? I was going to say shit, but it is shit if they do it this way. That's what it is.
And they've said a couple of months ago, when they said that naming was coming, they said, well, names don't have to be unique because we've got the unique serial numbers that was aimed with the ships anyway at the time you buy. So every ship you bought, whether it was a Polaris, an Eclipse, whatever, actually has a unique serial number.
Yeah.
And so we've already got our unique names. There's no one else that can really be Algarad, because I've used it. There's no one else who can be Execute. There's no one else who can, have your serial number of your ship. And so we've already got unique name, unique serial number. Why apply a unique name to our ships when it's actually stopping us having our ship and naming it the way we want? And for me, that's the crux.
And when we talked this through as a group, the only thing that kind of came across was that the larger ships would be a group of people would get known. Kind of like if you think of like the Enterprise, but you actually still know who all the individuals are, like Captain Kirk and Spock and blah 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 blah. So really, the crew will be famous, but it's just a way of branding a lot of famous people together under a ship banner, so to speak. And again, that also is exclusive because there's no way an Aurora is going to get known like that.
Mm.
But something like a Bengal or a Polaris or, a bigger ship will actually get known. So it's actually inverse of what John Crew was going for. Like, he wanted an Aurora to be known that way. That's not going to work.
Well, I think it's the idea of being players feeling attached to their ships.
Yes, that
But
too.
if I can't name my Aurora, the name I want to name my Aurora, how am I going to be attached to it? If I can't, I'm currently running, Just a Toon and Aurora. Now, Just a Toon has named their Aurora Australis because, the Aurora Australis are the Southern Lights. To me, it's a perfect name. It's now gone. I can see thousands of people trying to claim Aurora Borealis or Aurora Australis. But if I can't name my Aurora that, then what's the point?
Yeah.
I can't name it my story. And I don't care if there's 1,000 ships that can be named the Aurora Australis. The serial number is what really says it's unique.
Agreed.
And that really is the issue.
Your thoughts, TGP?
Yeah, I think that's kind of really the only way that they could fulfill this unique serial numbers, like you were saying with the Eclipse, is to have serial numbers in different patterns for different purposes. So, as an example, just off the top of my head, all of the UEE military ships, starting with UEE and being in a slightly different format, and maybe the Eclipse then follows that. So as an Eclipse owner, you get to have a military serial number. And it also aids identification, right? You can look at something instantly and go, I'm not sure what ship, but this is military. And you can incorporate that into military, into other missions. Starfarers having military serial numbers when they're employed by the UEE Navy versus the civilian ones that we have, Idris P versus the Idris M. That's, I think, the only way they could continue that now.
All right, so sorry, go ahead, Agrid. No, you go ahead. He's jogged my memory on a couple of things.
In terms of just picking up what you were saying there, DGP, if you have a Retaliator with the torpedo bomber and you take out your torpedo shells, because you've got the military version, you'd have the UEE there, but you've now got the cargo modules on, and you scan the ship and see, UEE Navy, that's a military ship, that's got torpedoes, I'm going to steer away from that one. Where if you just got the Retaliator base, you'd have by that analogy, you'd have just a straight non-UEE one. So that could actually aid some of the original Retaliator with bomber, the bomber, who have taken the bombs out, actually kind of act as a stealth ship or get past a blockade or get past a pirate because they don't want to tangle with those torpedoes. So,
all right. So the two things that he triggered in my memory was we were talking with Paul before the show, and Paul was telling us about how bad some of the naming conventions are. And one of the things that I didn't know about that he was telling us is that in the naming conventions you cannot have double letters. So if your name is Aaron, as in AARON, you can't use your name because it goes AA. So if the naming conventions are so locked down and you're expecting every ship to be unique, you know what I mean? And he was talking about things like apostrophes, commas, and underscores. Some of that stuff is going to be banned as well. So we're getting into a super unique name territory where everyone's ship is going to sound like a pharmaceutical product name. And that's pretty bad.
And in the current format, it might be okay now, but 3 or 4 years down the track, if you're a new player and you want to name your Aurora, Barclays are no hope of finding a unique name.
Yep.
And that to me says I won't be tied to my ship, which means I'll just use it as a stepping stone to something else. And so that whole desire to have us tied to our ships or have that feeling of, this is, there are lots of Auroras, but this one's mine. It goes out the window. And it's
it also almost kind of forces the hand of people who aren't bothered by this. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to name my ship. Well, if it's unique names, you can't leave it blank.
Mm.
So, and then it's going to be that kind of almost the civil disobedience. What's the rudest thing that I can get away with
Mm-hmm.
under the naming conventions? Why am I having to do this in the name of someone else's enjoyment?
And to go back to our original conversation, because we'd planned this around it being around marketing, is it's a marketing person's dream. It is the ultimate FOMO. X concept sale comes out, 400i. Buy your ship today and reserve your name straight away. So they'll buy it sooner and more instantly, so they can get their name on it before 6 months down the track when other people buy it. It's the ultimate FOMO cure, or it's that's why we assumed this was marketing, because it reeks of that buy now, buy now, buy now type of analogy.
And I found one of the other things I found was that the way in which CIG have talked about in the past of not being able to immediately identify players versus NPCs.
Yes.
Does that mean that the NPCs are going to have name ships as well, and that their ships have to be uniquely named? And if that's the case,
there goes half the names.
There goes 9 out of every 10 names.
Yeah.
Wiped out.
And not only that, too, Algrid, is like, let's be honest, a lot of the names we've seen in lore, and I'm giving a really bad example here, but like they have a name like John Smith, and then Leet Hacksaw _ MILF Hunter 1 comes up. Like, you're gonna kind of tell which one's the player and which one's the NPC, and it's not going to work in that regard from my perspective. DGP, what's your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe you've used the name of the ship that I was going to use. Now everyone's going to steal it from me. How dare you? Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's hard to quantify, but there are some people, including the three of us, who are really invested in this. You don't put the amount of money into a game like this unless you are really invested in it. And something like this, although it seems trivial to many, I'm sure, you just have this idea in your head. I am going to captain the, what was it, Lee Hacksaw MILF Hunter 1.
I can't even remember what I said. I made that off the top of my head. That was just all made up. Sorry. Lead Hacksaw MILF Hunter 1 or something, yeah.
and that's how I view my interactions with, the universe, with the verse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you say, we try to be positive about stuff and give constructive feedback. And I just can't see it with unique names.
To kind of bring this a little bit full circle back to the ship team and John Crew, they're wanting to make the ship tied and be unique. If you can't get the name you want, you've instantly lost people. Like I can tell you right now, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but in World of Warcraft, the characters that, or Knights of the Old Republic, or any of the MMOs I've played, where I've got the name that I was actually after, that is my main character, and that's the character I play the most. But the other characters where I couldn't get the names I wanted, I don't play them. I hardly even touch them. Right? So they need to go look at some other how other MMOs have done it, and when it's the other system that Blizzard did was like the battle tag, and that's or even on Discord how you can have a unique name and a different serial number as your name, or KOTOR did it with a name and a unique last name. And that makes a lot of sense for this game, if you think about it, like how we're having when you die and it gets passed on. So in, I'm not going to actually, I was about to say what my last name was in KOTOR, but someone will try and steal it, so I won't say that. But just say my last name was Jones, right? And then, or Jones, whatever. But you get what I'm trying to say. Every character will then have that name Jones, and that uniquely ties it to me. And it also adds to the immersion because, Jones, is that character a character of Jeffrey Jones? And yeah, that's me. But then now I'm playing Kimberly Jones. Do you know what I mean? Like that, you can actually see that reaction. Like, are you the son of? Yeah, like that'd be amazing. Like, I think I've played with you before, but your name was Jeffrey. Yeah, I'm now playing Kimberly. Like, you can just see that interaction. It'd be sick.
Yeah, Jeffrey's dead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I lost him, and I had to move on to the next character. Like that interaction is sick. Like, I love that. The other one that we even sorry.
Go on. I was going to say going back into the whole naming and tying to the ship. Going to the idea you were talking about earlier with Star Trek.
Yeah.
When Captain Kirk son gets gets killed in what was it, the Spock one, and Kirk yells out in anguish. Does he cry out the name of a ship that Khan is flying, or does he cry out the name of Khan? And he cries out Khan. It's not the ship.
Yeah.
The ship is irrelevant. It's the player that's the one, or the character that's the key thing. That's the character that's got the infamy. And so,
and it's the same thing. You don't usually bounty hunt a ship. You bounty hunt a person. So
yeah,
and it allows them to then hide on a ship. Because you have to scan the ship to find who's on it, and you also use it. It makes you use a specific scanner, so you can use like a life. Like you can see all the like. There's layers on layers on layers of problems that this is going to cause. The other depth that we went into, I want to bring this back up because I thought this was a really cool point. Was we started looking at, we even talked about lore and like we went into like in real life how planes and boats, how their serial numbers and names came about, and that the earliest date we could find was like 1918. So they haven't been around that long. And you were saying, just want to explain a little bit about the complexities, GGP, from your area of expertise.
Yeah, so with ships at sea, especially warships, you would see one and they've got a number down the side depending on their class. So Foxtrot 238, for example, those aren't unique to that hull. Many navies will have or have the option to have Foxtrot 238, and it's kind of because it's a very old industry. There are lots of overlaying systems, but that's, as we were saying, not too far removed from what we're going to get in the verse. We are subsuming or kind of integrating Tavaran culture. They're not going to use the same kind of conventions that we are, same Banu and everything else.
And so I took what he just said there and I went further and suggested to them that maybe the naming convention is not ours. We met the Banu, and the Banu had a convention that they used. And then it went even further. What if the convention's not the Banu's and they got it from someone else that they met? And then a part of it, that the actual lore, or there could even be a mission in game, is to find out who the hell came up with this, because maybe they got it from the Xi'an, but the Xi'an got it from some other alien race behind them that we don't even know about. And you can start to see some really cool lore reasons for this, and we could actually have a unique naming convention system that is completely alien and not like real life, and that just works. Go ahead.
Sorry, it would be a really cool way to introduce a new alien race into the verse that you go and players go and discover as part of this quest to discover the origins of something else in the verse.
Yeah, I can just see the lore team having a real field day with this and actually making it something rather interesting, rather than just we've because if you think about it, it's essentially the human race forcing our conventions on all the other alien races, and they've been there longer, and they would already have their own conventions, and they would have, having already met the Banu and the Vandal and stuff like that, the Xi'an, the Banu themselves would have conventions in place that work with them. So wouldn't we more likely integrate theirs into ours instead of the other way around? So when you start thinking about it, there's also lore reasons here why this has got to work. So it's kind of, we went a little bit deep. That's all I'm going to say. Agri, is anything you...
No, I think that's right. Like you look at the Banu, they're the first race that humans contact. And we already know the Banu were trading with the Vandal. And I'm pretty certain they already had contact with the Xi'an. So even at that point, we've got 3 space-faring races, actually 4 if you count the Tavaran, before we even got out there, before we even met anyone.
I'm just kind of thinking, Algrid, how sick and twisted it is if we're all using Vandal conventions, but I'll just... It'd be kind of, because, some kind of weird...
but it certainly, even if it's sick and twisted to be using Vandal, how sick and twisted is it if we've imposed our own naming conventions, or call sign conventions, or ship naming conventions, or recognition conventions on every other race in the verse?
Yeah, and especially how...
expand out.
Sorry, say again? Especially
if we're one of the last races to expand out.
Yeah. And DGP, going back, how you just explained, it is... Can you just explain a little bit how it is a little bit stuffed up at the moment? Because, we were looking at it, and planes is different from boats, and then planes has gone through multiple Can you explain a bit of that? Because you know a bit more than I.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So because maritime is such an old industry, it's struggling to catch up. You look at the aviation industry, how they name things, how they deal with their safety. It is so much better than how maritime works because maritime is trying to shrug off a lot of its tradition. So you'll see that a lot of the unique identifiers for ships only came in when we started using radios. That's
Mm.
how recent it is. You can have ships called whatever you want, pretty much. The only thing you can't do, very archaically, is fly particular flags. So any ship that flies the White Ensigns, for example, you can go and board it as a warship. It's just an internationally recognized right.
So
But
so
yeah,
wait,
so
wait, are you pushing for flags and Star Citizen, or have I totally missed the moment?
I'm calling it now. I'm
Yeah.
trailblazing my way through. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to hire me as a dev CIG, you're more than welcome. No, but there are things that you know, ships of certain sizes have to have these things. If you're talking about the Aurora, Algard's Aurora or something, it doesn't follow the same sort of restrictions. So it doesn't need the same codes. It doesn't need the same safety or training that you're going to get on a big ship. So yeah, it's all over the place. You'd think it would be simple, but it really, really isn't.
Mm.
But and if we take that, continue to take that view of small little dinky outboard motorboats to the real world, how many of those have a name like Just Sailing or Out for a Bite or whatever weird names that people have? I was reading one of the posts that someone put up, and they were coming from a naval aspect as well. And they were saying it's not the name of the ship that counts. They said they're working on I think I'm not sure what type of ship it was. I think I'll just say tug. They were working on a tug called Ruby, and if they looked up the registry for the ship Ruby, there were hundreds that were listed. But the second they looked up a serial number, boom, there was only one, and that was the one he was on. And I think rather than going for unique names, and I get the idea of the names. I get the idea of wanting the ships to feel unique to the players. But I think by going the individual unique names, it's actually cutting the players off from having the game they want or having the names they want. It's much better to have 1,000 Enterprises or 1,000 Serenities or 1,000 Nostromos or whatever else, and have and then me have to scan your ship and confirm that serial number to know whether I've got the right one. Than to limit it to one ship.
I think you've just wrapped it all up there, Argid. That is the kind of key takeaway. If you want this to be people's tied to the ship, you want it to be their story, then it's got to be their way. And they're going to be able to name things the way they want to be able to name them. And also, I think it also adds a little bit of complexity, Argid. So also with the, like what we mentioned with bounty hunting, it actually makes that profession more in depth because, and I think it was you that brought it up, imagine an episode with the belligerent duck where they're trying to hide, so all the ships in the area call themselves belligerent duck, just to make it so that they can hide in plain sight. I can see that as a cinematic type style episode, and they're scanning, and all they can find is belligerent duck everywhere.
And one of our backers said on Eve that's what they did. They said if they were trying to do something nefarious, they'd all name their ship the same thing and then go out. And so if you're trying to find the one who's doing it, you've actually got to scan each ship individually or intercept them all, and that just makes it so much harder. And so,
believe it or not, more realistic. It's more realistic. It's a bit more akin to the real world. Final thoughts, DGP. Anything you want to kind of add as we wrap up here, man?
I've got to actually echo what you said right at the beginning, X. If people take just one sentence from this, it has to be if everyone is special, then no one is special. There are a million ships out there or a million yachts out there called Happy Days. It's just a thing. There are no ships now called the Titanic or the Bismarck. And the Vara, the ship they use at Halloween, nothing else should be called the Vara. That should be, if you ever see a ship with the name the Vara, it should be something to do with Halloween and that absolute horror that they were trying to suggest. But by making stuff unique, everything unique, it's you're unique just like everybody else, and it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it kind of echoes real life as well. Like with celebrityism and all that. The people that make it, they make it for a reason. And unfortunately, that is just how it is. And I like. I think we were talking a little bit before the show as well about as content creators, me and Algrid don't, well, as an example, and I'm talking about all content creators. I shouldn't just say, I'm just using myself and Algrid as an example. We don't run around going, oh, I'm execute. So if there's another person playing as execute and they're running around doing that, chances are it's not me. People just play as people when they play under their names. And if they want to go around and eventually make it so people are unique, so they give people that are content creators or people that have done roles, then maybe you can give them a content creator icon or something like that. But that's again that's another niche issue that's starting to move off this topic. But you can see where I'm trying to go. I'm like, there are ways that they can make people look unique without destroying the story and immersion for people.
And I think to build on that, if I do things that are unique, whether I've got the Aurora Ruby or the Carrick find a place, whatever the name is, and there's a million of those.
Yep.
It's not the ship itself that becomes famous. It's the fact that I and my crew have become famous on that ship. Kirk does not become famous just because he's on the Enterprise, as you were saying earlier. It's the Enterprise, and I think famous because of the crew.
And I think a part of this game, and I'm kind of sitting here going, why do they want the ships to be unique? And that's because the ships will only ever be that one ship, but you yourself will die and pass on. You see, so they're trying to make the ships more famous, but it's not going to work because that's just not how it works. Like it's that player. If that player lives for 200 years and never dies, that guy will be infamous as hell, right? But when he dies, his son or daughter will still be known. It's like, oh, it's same last name. Oh, amazing! Your dad was such and such.
And to go the other way, like if Execute gets the glory and then he dies, to say, oh well, you've still got the ships with a unique name, your ship gets blown up. Theoretically, if they're doing that with the player names, you shouldn't name the ship.
That's exactly it. Yeah, because that's it in a nutshell. Because like, if the ship doesn't exist, then technically, from a lot, you're right, Argid. 100% correct. 100%. All right.
So anyway.
All right. Yeah, we've talked about this quite extensively. We got very heated. It's a very frustrating issue. I think also I'll add what Paul said was, it feels like it hasn't been thought through, because if you sit down with anyone, he literally said within 20 minutes, you'll have so many reasons why it's a bad idea. And I'd suggest in the comments that you guys go through it as well and let us know your thoughts. Like, it's very heated, right? But I want you to picture that someone from CIG is going to come and read these comments. Constructive, guys. So give examples of why it's a bad idea. Just don't just say this sucks. I want to hear reasons why it's a bad idea, like we've given here today. World of Warcraft, too many people with the same names, crazy names, all those type of examples that we gave. So when you leave a comment, please try to be constructive, because that's what we try to do here. All right, where can people find you drinking with gaming problems besides the pub? Where can they find you?
Normally on the floor, passed out. No, I'm on YouTube at the moment. I don't stream, unfortunately. My kind of work-life schedule just doesn't allow it right now. But I'm over on YouTube, Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Come check us out and say hello.
Awesome. And that's how we got notified. I'd already been watching a bit of your content, because that's one of the things I do. But yeah, one of our supporters definitely said, you should go check this out. And I showed it to Algrid. Algrid agreed, and that's why you're here.
And we went, yeah.
And thank you very much to that person. Cheers, appreciate it.
Tree0311, I think it might have been him, if you want to say thanks. Again, leave a hashtag JD in the comments below if you are interested in your chance at winning a Super Hornet and F7A upgrade. I think the F7A is about $350 at the moment. It's not cheap. But we're looking to give that away when we hit about 12,500 subscribers. So I don't know how long that's going to take. It could take forever. Maybe never give it away. I don't know, but we are definitely getting more subscribers before it, which is really cool, because that's what the person that was giving away was intending. They wanted to help us, and they wanted to recognize. Well, actually, we kind of encouraged him to recognize his friend. But yeah, that's what we've taken on board. So we want his friend to be remembered as well. And I found it a very just to give you a bit of insight, drinking gaming with problems, is that he's the guy that's giving away is now emotionally attached to a virtual non-physical object. I find that very strange. Like, you can look, this is a pen, and this could be my dad's pen, and I could be emotionally attached to it, but now you can physically be emotionally detached to something that technically doesn't exist. I thought that was very interesting.
Detached, but yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
it's a beautiful thing, and it's a shared experience. You know, it's
Yeah.
massive respect, and yeah, I'll leave my hashtag Jaden in the comments once the video's up.
Yeah, good. You're more than welcome to. Yeah. And he was a military person. Are you actually? You are a military person, yeah? Just to check.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. I left the Navy in 2013.
Oh, there you go. So yeah. All right. Well, that's been this week's episode. He's been drinking with gaming problems. He's been Algrid, and I've been Execute. And I'll catch you all in the next one.
Take care.